If you are over 60 and you have ever put yesterday's leftovers in the microwave without a second thought, I need you to stop and listen to this, because what I'm about to explain has sent more people to the emergency room than almost any other kitchen habit in America, and most of them never saw it coming. I'm Dr. William Lee, and for years I've studied how ordinary, everyday foods change once they've been cooked, cooled, and reheated. Today I'm walking you through 4 foods that seem completely safe the second time around, but are quietly working against your gut, your digestion, and your long-term health. Stick with me until the end, because the 4th food on this list is sitting in almost every American refrigerator right now, and the fix takes less than 10 seconds. Let's begin with rice, because this is the one that surprises people the most. Rice doesn't spoil the way you'd expect. When rice is cooked, the heat kills active bacteria, but it does not kill something called a bacterial spore, specifically one produced by a bacteria named Bacillus cereus. Think of a spore like a tiny seed in hibernation. It survives the boiling water, survives the steam, and just waits. Now here's where it gets dangerous. If that cooked rice sits out on the counter, even for a couple of hours while you finish dinner and clean up, those spores wake up and start multiplying rapidly in the warm, moist environment. And as they multiply, they release a toxin. This toxin is heat stable, which means even when you reheat that rice tomorrow, piping hot, the toxin survives. This has been documented in food safety literature for decades, and it's one of the most common and most preventable causes of sudden stomach illness that people assume was quote-unquote just something I ate. For someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s whose digestive system doesn't bounce back the way it used to, this can mean days of illness, dehydration, and in more serious cases, a hospital visit. The solution is simple but non-negotiable. Cool your rice within 1 hour of cooking, refrigerate it right away in a shallow container so it cools evenly, and never let cooked rice sit on the counter overnight. Reheat it only once, and make sure it's steaming hot all the way through, not just warm at the edges. But rice isn't even the food I worry about most. The next one is far more common in senior households, and almost nobody thinks twice about it. I'm talking about leafy greens, spinach, kale, chard, even beet greens. These vegetables are naturally rich in something called nitrates, and in their fresh, first cooked form, nitrates are actually harmless, and some research even suggests they support healthy blood flow. The problem starts when you cook a big batch of spinach on Sunday, portion it into containers, and reheat it across the week, which, by the way, is exactly what nutritionists tell seniors to do for convenience. Here's the catch. Every time you reheat those greens, especially if they're reheated more than once or left at room temperature between reheats, some of those nitrates convert into nitrites. And under the wrong conditions, high heat, repeated exposure, certain proteins present, nitrites can form compounds that researchers have studied for their potential to irritate the digestive lining over time. This doesn't mean spinach is dangerous. It means batch reheating spinach the way most people do needs one small adjustment, which I'll give you in a moment. And speaking of proteins, that brings us to the food that shocks almost every single person I explain this to. Chicken. Yes, the leftover chicken breast sitting in your fridge right now. Reheating chicken won't make that toxin-style illness we talked about with rice, but something else happens that most people have never heard explained clearly. Chicken protein has a very specific molecular structure, and every time you heat it, cool it, and heat it again, that structure breaks down a little more. Food scientists call this protein denaturation. The first time you cook chicken, this is completely normal and necessary. But the second and third time you reheat it, the proteins become harder for your digestive enzymes to break down efficiently. For a 25-year-old, this might just mean slightly less tender meat. But for someone over 60, whose stomach acid production and enzyme output naturally decline with age, a well-documented part of digestive aging, that same reheated chicken can sit heavier, cause more bloating, and take longer to digest than it should. If you've ever reheated chicken and felt unusually full, gassy, or sluggish afterward for no clear reason, comment the word chicken below right now, because I want to know how many of you have experienced this without ever connecting the dots. I read every single comment on these videos, and I promise you, you are not alone. Now here's food number 4, and I saved it for last because it's the one most doctors don't warn you about, even though it has caused some of the most serious cases I've studied. Potatoes. A baked potato wrapped tightly in foil, left to cool on the counter, then refrigerated, still wrapped. This is one of the highest risk combinations in a home kitchen. Here's why. Potatoes, like rice, can carry spores, but this time from a bacteria called Clostridium botulinum. This bacteria thrives specifically in low oxygen environments, and a potato sealed tightly in foil is exactly that. As the potato cools slowly inside that wrapping in an oxygen-starved pocket at room temperature, it creates close to ideal conditions for this bacteria to grow and produce a toxin. This isn't a common illness, but when cases do occur, they are serious enough to require hospitalization because this particular toxin affects the nervous system. The fix is remarkably simple. Never let a foil-wrapped potato cool on the counter. Unwrap it immediately after cooking. Let it cool uncovered and refrigerate it within an hour, loosely covered, not sealed in foil. So let's bring this all together, because I don't want you leaving this video afraid of rice, spinach, chicken, or potatoes. I want you leaving with 4 simple habits that erase almost all of this risk. First, cool your food quickly, within 1 hour of cooking, not after your favorite show ends. Second, refrigerate in shallow containers so heat escapes evenly instead of staying trapped in the center. Third, reheat only once, and always until the food is steaming hot throughout, not just warm. And fourth, be especially cautious with foil-wrapped potatoes and multi-day batch-cooked greens, since those are the 2 combinations that catch people off guard the most. None of this requires giving up meal prepping or your favorite comfort foods. It just requires these small adjustments that take seconds but protect your digestion for years. If this video opened your eyes the way I hope it did, do 3 things for me right now. First, comment which one of these 4 foods surprised you the most. I read every comment and I want to know which one nobody warned you about before today. Second, share this with a parent, a spouse, or a friend who reheats leftovers every single day without thinking twice, because this information could genuinely spare them an unpleasant, avoidable illness. And third, subscribe and turn on notifications, because next week I'm breaking down the one refrigerator mistake that nearly every American household makes without realizing it, and it has nothing to do with temperature settings. Your health is worth these few extra minutes of caution, and I'll see you in the next one.